Hello and welcome to our series, People of Space by Astronomer. The series is dedicated to bring you the fields of space and astronomy through the people who are experts in it.
Inspire the world, a brand new face. Welcome to the people of space.
I'm Shweta, your host for today's episode, and we have Dr. Graham Lau with us. He works with Blue Marble Space and hosts the show Ask an Astrobiologist, sponsored by NASA, and helps run the University Rover Challenge as well. I've known him as the Cosmobiologist, as the Astrobiologist, and you might have heard about him as Astrobeef or Space Beard, or maybe as the professor of everything groovy. So basically, if it is about finding life or exploring the space, Graham's got you covered. So Graham, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to join you here tonight. It is nighttime here in Colorado. I'm on the other side of the planet. It's a pleasure to tune in with you.
Thank you so much. So let's get into it. Tell us, like astrobiologist, what got you into like exploring the life beyond Earth? What inspired you?
Yeah, my story starts really young. I knew at 5 years old I wanted to be a scientist. I also wanted to be a musician. And I think as a young person, I always loved science fiction. I loved Star Trek and Star Wars and video games with spaceships and things like that. And I loved reading stories like Dune and other sci-fi novels from Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke and things like that. And I don't know, so along the way, I just got more and more curious about the wonder of being alive and existing in this universe and the things that we're learning. And admittedly, I didn't know that I was going to be an astrobiologist at first when I went to college and started at university studying. I didn't even know what I wanted to do, really. I wanted to explore different things. I was interested in pharmaceuticals and biotechnology, maybe doing engineering or business. And eventually, I ended up exploring a lot deeper in biology and the history and philosophy of science. And along the way, I kind of ended up then doing chemistry and astrophysics, and then eventually geology. And so, yeah, I've just kind of continued building out more and more as I've explored and thought a lot more about our place in the universe.
So it seems like it developed gradually, as you went along with it. And this is reminding me of this quote. I think it is by Carl Sagan, where he says, "I do not just want to believe; I want to know." And
Mhm.
that's what like you're reminding me of right now. And you have so many diverse roles that you're working in, like multitasking, director of communications and marketing at the Blue Marble Space, research investigator and director of logistics for the University Rover Challenge, and I'm sure this all requires like exceptional time management. Can you tell us like how do you juggle all these responsibilities and what drives you to maintain such diverse portfolio?
Yeah, I'll admit that I need to be better at saying no, sometimes in my life because, I think you know how it is. I'm sure your audience knows how it is when there's so many cool things happening in the space industry and in science and in art and music and meditation and all these different realms. Like it's hard to not want to do everything that you possibly can. And so time management really is the key. Archilochus in ancient Greece once said that we don't rise to the level of our expectations, but rather fall to the level of our training. And so it really comes down to training, to the systems that we develop to make sure that we're engaging with our tasks appropriately, allotting our time in a sufficient manner to get our work done when we have contracts or salaries and things like that. But also that by having a better system in place for time management, it allows you to have more freedom. So there's this idea that discipline equals freedom from Jocko Willink and his podcast and books. And I agree entirely. I think being very disciplined in how you approach your time management is really important to having the freedom to explore more.
Gosh, I'm the exact opposite. I also like have to say yes to everything, especially when it comes to science communication. I cannot wait to just go out there, but I think I need to like get some notes from you about how to manage my time and set up systems in place. Being an entrepreneur is like just getting a little bit of everything for me. So, but I'm trying my best to put it all together because as you're saying, it's right that when you have these systems you have time for the other stuff, so like to follow your hobbies. I love to paint, I'm a little artistic, And I understand like your perspective with meditation and space also, it sort of combines together. But can you tell us more about your hobbies? What do you like to do when you have everything else settled and you have your free time?
Yeah, I mean, so it's I mean, I think my work is part of my hobby too. I love what I do. I love my work. I love communication of science. I love astrobiology. I love working with people and organizing and helping people find pathways forward in astrobiology and cosmology and other realms. But in my own free time, outside of spending time on my computer and doing all this work, you can often find me playing guitar or meditating or playing with my son. We were playing camping tonight, where we built a fort out of blankets in his bedroom and we were camping inside of his bedroom. I also am really into fitness, and so I work out every day. Sometimes it's weightlifting, sometimes it's yoga sessions with exercise, sometimes it's martial arts. I trained in martial arts since I was 5 years old. I've been a martial arts instructor for many years of my younger life. And so now I train on my own. I've been doing that for many years. And so usually it's something in the realm of either fitness or music or art or play. There's so much things we can do. And I love reading. Sometimes people ask me like how I know so much stuff, and it's not because I have like a lot of stuff memorized. It's because I read a lot. Like the more that you read, the more that you know. So
Absolutely. And I think all of these experiences that you're reading, your martial arts, or just being a dad, even like all of this sort of comes together as like your personality and like what you are. And it reflects in your work, in your roles that you're working at. So like I'd like to know about your role as the host of Ask an Astrobiologist. I've seen like some clippings in some episodes and they're really cool. And you make like really complex scientific concepts accessible through it to people, to broad audience. So what inspired you to like venture into science communication in general, and how has that shaped your career?
so two things there. First off, in science communication, I was one of those young people. I loved hanging out around a campfire with friends and telling stories about space or the books that we've read or the movies that we loved or telling scary stories to each other. And I always loved that process of storytelling. And so as I was learning more about science in college, the more I was able to communicate through storytelling about the science I was learning with other people. And I really found early on that joy of when you see a young child or an elderly person or anyone of any age, and that moment when their eyes light up or their jaw drops wide because they've just learned something new for the first time in their own life, or they made a connection in their own mind somehow, and you can be a small part of that process for them by having some knowledge to share or having a discussion or kind of helping them enlighten themselves and find those moments. And so for me, it's been a blessing to be involved in science communication and have those moments with other people. But for Ask an Astrobiologist, it's really just very good fortune, I think. Sanjoy Sam was the original host of the show for NASA Astrobiology and SaganNet. He's the founder and CEO of my company, Blue Marble Space. He's also a wonderful researcher and a great friend. Um, and so he was the original host of the show, but he had so many other duties. And so he was looking to pass the torch. And so I came in and I co-hosted the show. We were going every other episode for some time. And then I took over as the host of Ask an Astrobiologist. And I don't know how much longer I'll host. Maybe eventually I'll find somebody else who wants to take over as well and transition. There are good reasons to pass torches along, I think, in our careers as well. I think it makes a lot of sense to bring in younger, early career researchers who also want to experience trying to share science in such ways. Um, but yeah, I've been very fortunate in both regards, in science communication and in hosting this really fun show for NASA.
Yeah, about what you said about science communication starting at early age, I relate with it so much. When I was a little kid, I would go to school and ask questions like, what is black hole and where do we come from? Is there universe, like in the universe, is there life out there? And basically, it's this curiosity that also brought me towards astronomy and eventually made me a science communicator unknowingly, actually. But like this vision, especially with Ask Astrobiologist, you're talking about so many things, especially about the life beyond Earth. And you said you also love to read, you love science fiction. With all of this, what do you think is like the emerging technologies and like the scientific advancement? Would you believe will revolutionize our understanding of the universe?
Absolutely, so much is changing right now. The exponential rate of progress and technological development, innovation, entrepreneurship, material science, engineering, everything is changing so fast. I have a fear right now that many people across the entire planet are highly unaware of how much they really, really need to start understanding science and technology, because
True.
science and technology aren't only a massive part of our lives, but they're going to become an even greater part of our lives. Watching, artificial intelligence right now, I use AI on almost a daily basis now, to help with brainstorming, image generation, video generation. I use it to help make recipes to cook for dinner for my family. I use it sometimes to check out my workouts and see if it can help me make better workouts. Like, there's so much going on with it, but the technology is also being integrated in a lot of ways throughout the internet, throughout companies and how business is performed, through banking and cybersecurity. There's so much going on right now, and the same thing is true in astrobiology. So right now there's two major astrobiology and artificial intelligence groups have popped up, exploring not just how we're looking at potentially creating an alien in AI in the future, which is interesting. It could be the first alien we interact with is one that we actually create from ourselves. But there's also this realm of using AI as a tool to help us better understand our data, to build better instruments, to understand our missions better. For things like SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, having AI sort through these massive, massive amounts of data is probably going to help us a lot. And so everything is changing. And right now in astrobiology, with the James Webb Space Telescope, the upcoming Habitable Worlds Observatory telescope that'll probably launch in the next 15 or 20 years. We're finding more exoplanets than ever. The number is very close to 6,000 confirmed exoplanets right now. The Transiting Exoplanet Satellite Survey Satellite TESS has over 7,000 possible candidates of more planets right now. And so
Wow.
right now we might have nearly 13,000 potential worlds out there to explore. And so with using AI applications for these space telescopes to look at the chemistry of atmospheres or look for possible signs of technology out there, everything is changing so radically fast. It feels very much like if we are not alone in the universe, we might be very close to making that determination.
Absolutely, you're very right about the AI. I also think that there are many people who do not know what are the capabilities of it. And I'm also using a lot of AI into my company and like we're growing with it. And I think it's about finding that right balance of using it for the betterment. And when it comes to like astrology, and like you said, there's so much out there to explore that we already know is like something is out there, we're not alone. It'll be waste of space if we are the only ones in this space, right? So,
It feels that way, yeah.
yeah, in your opinion, what are the most significant challenges humanity faces in the quest to become interplanetary species? And how do you think can we overcome them?
The most significant challenge is ourselves. We, by our very nature, are competitive, and competition exists in nature. Competition came to us through our evolutionary processes. Without competition, organisms would just consume all the resources they possibly can and obliterate themselves and their ecosystems, their environments. And so, competition is a way for evolution, for nature to help keep things in check and keep things balanced. But due to the nature of our competitiveness, through evolution and our really basic, very ancient emotional understanding that the way that fear impacts us, the way that anxiety impacts us, and the way that our emotional reactivity is so easily overcomes us, it has lingered with us still. And so we are a warring species. We are right now. There are wars occurring across our entire planet. There are people who are oppressed. We still have massive issues and inequality across the planet, where there are a very small number of human beings in this planet who have such a staggering amount of wealth that most human beings alive, over 90% of people on this planet, really have no conception of just how much wealth the wealthiest people really have and how much luxury they have compared to everyone else. And that becomes a problem for all of us. It also historically has led to revolutions and warfare. We've gone to war over differences in spiritual beliefs and religious beliefs and understandings, trying to get other resources, expanding our boundaries. And a lot of it stems from those basic emotions of fear and anxiety. There's so much that we could do and overcome. And so I really think that building ourselves into the future requires not just better technology, but a better understanding of our own selves through spiritual, moral, education, and through things like art and really exploring the human condition. There's a very famous essay, an essay that I love from Martin Luther King Jr. called "The World House." It comes from one of his better speeches, in my opinion. In the essay, he's talking about the world as a house holding all of us together as humanity. We are all brothers and sisters, whether we really like it or not, and we go to war with each other. We really are very, very connected. We have far more things in common than we have different. In this essay, Martin Luther King Jr. says that we've come to an age where we have guided missiles and misguided men. Basically, he was lamenting the fact that science and technology, though so powerful in our lives and offering so much value to us, it also allows us to destroy each other in ever grander ways by building, the next complicated bioweapon or the next massive nuclear weapon or finding the next way to kill as many people as possible. Meanwhile, we're not spending enough time in developing skills like exploring, general psychology and critical thinking and meditation and exploring, our spiritual understandings of who we are. We really need a lot more of that across the world in human society. A lot more of just an open understanding, a willingness to just be present and just be aware of our existence.
Yeah, there's this word in Sanskrit, a verse, I would say, not an entire verse, but we say Aham Brahmasmi. That means I am the universe. And then we also have this another word saying Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, like entire universe is my home. And that's just basically what you're talking about. And I understand with this philosophical perspective of the universe, either when you understand that the universe is such a massive place, you either feel the emotion of bitterness or you feel this extreme excitement. And I think us science communicators are like usually excited about like what's out there and like to explore. So yeah, that's a really great perspective that you have there. Now this conversation is getting a little serious, so I'm gonna throw in a little rapid fire round over here. You ready? Okay, cool. Favorite space themed movie?
Ooh, my favorite space theme movie. That's actually a hard one. I love Contact, and other movies that try to explore like what it really would be like Interstellar. But for me, I'm a huge sci-fi horror fan, and so I love like Pandorum and some of those kind of things. For me, it's the original Alien.
Mm, yeah. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. As much as I want to be a tea drinker, I drink coffee. I drink a lot of coffee. If I ever go to Mars, they better figure out how to grow coffee plants there because I'm gonna need a lot of coffee.
Yeah, we had an episode with Davi Souza, and he said he's farming in space, experimenting with that. And he said that if he cannot grow coffee or go to space without coffee, he's not going. And even
Yep,
this morning, like if I hadn't had my coffee, I wouldn't be here at 7:30 in the morning doing this interview with you.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. If you weren't an astrobiologist, what career would you have pursued?
I mean, I have other careers. I'm training to be a meditation instructor. I've done other things in my life. I worked in my father's sign business for 11 years. When I was younger, I almost took over his sign business. That was almost my career. And honestly, like I actually really love real estate. And I'd love to get more involved in being a landowner and trying to help people find their ways into their first homes. So there's so much to do. But if I had to choose something that I've really never been paid for that I would love to explore as a career, it'd be to be a rock and roll guitarist.
Oh wow, that would be amazing. Cool. Then maybe you can tell us like which if you were organizing like a band somewhere on a planet, some other planet, which musical band would you pick to organize a concert?
Yeah, so I'm so inspired by music. I listen to lots of music. I play lots of different kinds of music. Almost anything I can learn how to play or listen to. I listen to all kinds of genres and I love just about everything. But for me, one of the most influential bands of my entire life has been the band Pink Floyd. And
Oh,
so if I
yes.
could
Me
organize a
too.
band, yeah, it'd be a Pink Floyd style band with just really heavy, emotional, electric guitar riffs, with really deep lyrics, thematic albums. That'd be my kind of jam.
Absolutely. Astronomy will help you organize that. But
Love
then,
it.
which planet would you organize it on?
I mean, the easy one is Mars, right? Because it has a rocky surface where we can stand and hang out. And also, there's not much atmosphere, but there should be enough atmosphere, especially if we start terraforming, there should be enough atmosphere to allow for us to hear the music as well, which is pretty important. So you can't just play music out in outer space. Even if you had spacesuits on them, the music wouldn't actually travel. But you could record it in a space station, perhaps, or maybe even in like a cloud city built in the clouds of Venus. It'd be kind of cool too.
Yeah, okay, cool. So tell me this, if you could have a conversation with any scientist, historic figure in science, who would it be? And what would you discuss?
I mean, there's so many great thinkers who've been part of the human journey. And as much as I really love the writings of Carl Sagan and I loved Cosmos as a child and he inspired me so much, I'm still very sad and I never had a chance to meet him. I've met members of his family. I've had friends who knew him very well. And he
Wow.
sounds like just a remarkable person who I would love to hang out and talk with. The same thing for Eugene Shoemaker. Not as well known as Carl Sagan, but he's basically considered by some to be like the father of modern planetary science. He took Apollo astronauts to Meteor Crater to learn how to look for geology and understand rocks on the moon. Shoemaker died unfortunately young, in a vehicle crash in Australia. Um, there's been so many more recent people, but honestly, I would love to go back in time and speak to someone like Hypatia at the Library of Alexandria, or meet someone like Pliny the Younger, or Pliny the Elder, or even meet like an ancient Roman statesman or one of the ancient Greek thinkers, and just to see what their life was like, and to see those people who've written things that have survived millennia. That we've had great thinkers in recent history who wrote amazing things, but we don't know if their writings are going to survive for 2,000 years or more. And yet we do have people who've existed on this planet in the past whose writings and works were so impactful that we're still telling their stories and reading their words and trying to understand who they were millennia later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's been so many amazing people through the history, especially as you said, like Roman thinkers who shaped the world, and we are still looking up at the stars and looking at the constellations and telling Greek mythological stories. But as you continue the journey in astrobiology and science communication, what is the one project in the future or like the mission in the future that you would like to be part of if you get the chance to?
Yeah, so I'll answer this in two different ways actually. So one, I have the recent term that I created called the Panzoic effect. I coined that for my TEDx talk. My friend and colleague Mike Toyon and I kind of came up with this term together to explain the idea that I've been developing that not only is thinking about alien life important for us to understand our place in the universe, it's also an act of wonder and awe. It is an amazing experience for us as humans to consider ourselves in the context of the cosmos and how big things are really out there and how vast things are, and to think about the potential for life to be everywhere out there. So, in this concept of the Panzoic effect, which I'm now exploring a bit more fully, I'm working on an article that will be published next year on it, and then also a book manuscript to explore the idea a little further. I really want to explore the psychological, spiritual, sociological impacts of thinking about alien life. And even though I am a scientist myself, I really want to speak to a lot of other people who've had, experiences that they feel. There are people who think that there's aliens in our sky now. There's people who think they've met aliens in their dreams or through meditation. I'd love to speak with those people and hear about their experiences and why they feel connected to the alien, to possible life out there. And so I'm really exploring that idea deeper. That'll be most of my next year is kind of exploring that. But when it comes to astrobiology, like in general, where things are at, if I could choose any kind of realm, like a new topic to bring into my own workhouse here, It would definitely be the technosignatures realm. There's so much cool research going on in this realm of technosignatures. A lot of great folks at the SETI Institute, at Penn State, here at Blue Marble Space Institute of Science, and across the planet are doing really incredible research to explore not only could we detect a radio message, but could there be other signs of technological activity, from finding industrial gases in the exoplanet atmosphere that Jacob Hock-Misra and his colleagues have written about, to looking for possible artifacts of actual alien civilizations, maybe even in our own solar system. There's a lot more to explore there, and I'd really love to be part of that work because I think that's going to be really important for the future of looking for alien life.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds so great. With what you were saying about the way of thinking that's come to you with the meditation and spirituality and people who believe that they're connected to the universe in some way or the other. I think the key thing that stayed with me with what you said is that it's the way of thinking that's going to derive a person to, act in a certain way. And that's the perspective that astronomy sort of gives you when you know the universe is vast, that there is alien life out there. And for me, when I think about my connection with the universe, I just again remember Carl Sagan that we are stardust, right? So I tell my partner that we both are soulmates because we were probably born in the same star long, long time ago. So for me, that's the case. But tell me, with the thought process that you were talking about, what message would you give the younger generation about how they can think and what is there for them in the future if they want to get into this field?
You know, I speak a lot to young people and early career researchers. Early career doesn't necessarily always mean young, um, but I speak to a lot of people around the entire planet, from India and Morocco and European nations like France and Germany, the UK. I've spoken with students from all over Asia and Africa, from Australia and New Zealand, across the US, North America and South America. I've spoken to people across this entire planet for years now about astrobiology, careers in astrobiology, concepts in astrobiology, mission development, the future of astrobiology. And I can say for sure the future of the field is very bright. There are a lot of young people who are really curious, who want to be part of it. That said, I do know that a lot of young people in many nations, they love so much the ideas that we're talking about and sharing, and not just in astrobiology, in cosmology, in space exploration, in aerospace engineering, and all these fields, but they feel like there's not opportunity in their own nation. They feel like there aren't programs, there's not university programs, there aren't internships, there's not enough funding. And so for me, I really want to be part of the generation that helps fix that and helps them find ways to be involved. But I can tell any of those young people is to not give up. Like, there is a place for you in space exploration. There is a place for you in astrobiology. And that place might not be, mimicking Carl Sagan if you want to do that. He had a very nuanced and specific kind of career, but there are so many pathways and there are opportunities out there if you know what to look for and what to do. And sometimes people, especially young people, they feel like they have to do the big thing right away. Like they look at the top of the mountain and they see the peak of the mountain way up there. And that's where the Carl Sagans and Neil deGrasse Tysons are at. It's where their dreams are at, but they're not thinking about how to climb to the peak. There's a pathway to get up there, and that pathway isn't going from down here to jump up to the top. It includes a lot of steps along the way. And sometimes those steps include taking a job that isn't in the career path that you want for some period of time to make enough money to support yourself while you study what you need to go back to the pathway. Sometimes we change our ideas along the way. There was a period for me after I finished my first two undergraduate degrees where I really wasn't sure of where to go after that in my future. And I really wanted to explore my martial arts training a bit more. And so I spent a little over a year really going deep into martial arts, exploring Chinese, Okinawan, Japanese, Korean histories of martial arts, exploring the way certain weapon forms and certain wrestling forms had moved from places like ancient Greece and North Africa, through India and over to China before becoming part of modern day martial arts. And so, for me, I took a little detour off the path for some time, and that's okay too. I eventually came back to science, but maybe I didn't have to, you know, there were other ways to become the person that I am now, and to find a great way forward for myself, no matter which direction I was taking. I am glad to be part of the space industry, and so again, to reiterate, for anyone who does want to be part of it, there is a way.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What you said, that there's not like a direct jump there. You have to pivot. You have to make sure that you're not quitting on your dream, but you're taking the right path. And this is what I was discussing the other day with Joyful, also, who's OAD fellow, with whom also we have done the People of Space talk. And yeah, I think this is the perspective that many students who are looking to get into science field, space field, should have this big understanding of the universe, should not intimidate them. And that's why we are bringing this series to them, so that they can see people like you. In fact, 2 years ago, if somebody had told me that, Shweta, you're going to be interviewing Graham Lau on a series who you follow on like social media and stuff, I'd be like, no, what would I talk to him? But you have to take that first step, and your curiosity should drive you. And I absolutely agree to that. And thank you very much for joining us today, Graham. Like, it's gonna be end to our episode today, but there've been really insightful things that you've had to say, and I'm sure it's inspired a lot of people. I thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much. It's been a blessing to join you.
If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify to stay updated. We've got more amazing guests and stories coming your way, so don't miss out. See you next time. Clear skies.